Shout out to the real. Shout out to the fake. Shout out to that nosy chick. She better stay in her place. Get in line, punk. Today's guest is an author, activist. He serves the Black community. He's from Buffalo. Shout out to Buffalo. Dorian, what's happening, brother?
Much love, much love. I just came from an interview earlier. I was talking on the radio station from one of my good brothers. Yeah, it was earlier around like 6. But I'm here. I'm invested.
So what is going on with you, man? What is happening right now?
Right
just
now,
did an interview.
Yeah. So right now, Taekwondo a little heavy, it's a little dry at the moment. Not much is going on, but I'm okay with that. So I have a 3rd book recently published last month, or December, right? So December 27th. I'm proud of that, and it's moving a little bit. So that's what's good.
All right. So what book did we talk about? Thoughts of Creativity of a King?
Thoughts of Creativity King. That's my 2nd book.
2nd book. So what book are we talking about right now? Wisdom Advice?
Yeah, Wisdom 45 Advice. I got it right here.
All right. So let's kick Wisdom 40. So let's talk about that real quick.
Yes, sir. So it is a self-help book, more essay-based. It has a little bit of poetry scattered throughout, haikus, free verse, and regular stanzas. 2 illustrations from a local artist, Black artist. And it's really about self-help and development, growth. So it's introspective work on my part. And I turn that into life lessons, right? I turn that into philosophy that I've received through my education. And with that combination, I hope to help people make mental shifts for developing themselves, morally, ethically, and, changing the way people are like shifting in their progress. Like, I got the books, I graduated college, and I've overcome my own adversity. And my thoughts put into something to help people, achieve their goals. So that's what this is. It's a 45 advice, talk about communication.
What does the 45 come into play?
It's all the different sections about what would guide you into growth. So we'll talk about friendships, like what is a good friend? Becoming a good man, that's another section. Communication, reflection, the power of that, how to do it, going about it, the importance of it. And just to name a few. So you get these different sections covering a topic, and then it's kind of like nuts and bolts of how to do it and why it's important, or how to pursue it, approach it, and all that.
All right. So who is this targeted? Is it targeted to youth? I know it's built on everybody. Well, who is it targeted? Younger men or adult men?
Yep, I would say youth. But I don't want to cage it, right? I don't want to cage it, but I would direct it towards the youth. Because I feel like they need it now more than ever, right? So the world is changing, and I think it's imperative that people coming up in the world that, we don't have necessarily the best background of people, right? Moms and pops maybe on some drugs, or they're not home.
Highly dysfunctional.
Yep. So that dysfunctionality, this book helps you cope or maintain your internal strength in that environment and help you progress through. Because I've had my own struggles, and not everything's best with parents, So I want to be able to leave something for other people to help them get through the tough time, and not only that, strive and become greater.
And what's some of the key lessons that you can point out in this book that we can look for? Some of the things that you learned while writing the book.
I would say reflection. That's one section of the book, but for me, reflection allows me to produce the books I produce. So how can you think about your life and your experiences and turn that into a lesson for somebody else, right? So these lessons I have, in another section I have about money, for instance. So books are assets. I type this, I don't have to keep retyping the whole thing and then printing it and glue it. It's people buy it, they pay the tax, they get the product, they love it, they come back for another one. And when you create an asset, I no longer have to put money into the thing once it's produced. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And when you develop assets, you're better able to gain wealth, retain it, and just stack. Assets are
Mhm.
necessary. And I also talk about in the money section creating the asset, but kind of turning what I've done and what I've learned into something greater. I author
Mhm.
consult. So
Mhm.
I know how to produce a book. I can now teach you how to produce a book. And
And
I can
that's what
make
I
you
need you to do.
self-sufficient. Yes, yes. I make you self-sufficient at producing it so that you can produce your own books repetitively. I give you the resources, I give you the information, and therefore you turn your passion or your gift, you create an asset in no specific order, and you produce something that can alternative ways to make some more income, right? So
Mhm.
in terms of money, that would be like one of the good lessons I would say that came out of that.
All right. So you're talking about the world is changing. What do you mean the world is changing?
Um, so from my time of birth and moving on, I hadn't experienced World War II or anything or Vietnam, but you know we're going in we're going into kind of we're already in like Putin's kind of reign of terror, right? You
Mhm.
know, Vladimir Putin in Russia. And then Korea is shooting missiles over towards Japan, over Japan, threatening and all that. And China's, going on to Taiwan. On the global scale, things are getting a little hectic. COVID happened, finances and all that.
Mhm.
And people are kind of, I wouldn't say off the rails, but it's getting shaky, you know.
Mhm.
So again, with what I have learned growing up and the life lessons I've come across, what I hope to give to other people is a way to combat the financial struggles, um, their self-esteem, their what they want to accomplish, their goals, and etc. So,
Some
yeah,
somebody's struggling. So we're talking about the youth here. Somebody's struggling with those issues. Self-esteem. What would you tell them?
know yourself.
Know
Know
yourself.
yourself.
How do you get
So
to know yourself?
you, okay, for one, you want to look at other people. They could help you discover yourself, right?
Mhm.
You got friends, you're chatting it up, you got a dialogue, and you're going to hit a certain issue. Could be abortion or the war, police brutality. What you once thought may no longer be true. You know,
Mhm.
like your ideas may shift. You may learn that, well, okay, I wasn't completely gung ho about this, but I can, you know, be more in this lane. Or learning yourself. Did you play football?
Absolutely.
So you're into football. So another way of learning yourself is exploration. You explore
Mhm.
different sports, art, photography, whatever, and then you
Mhm.
kind of learn in the process your endurance, your resilience, your grit. You learn when you're in trouble, when situations arise. You learn that is your integrity up to where it is like it should be? Are you how truthful are you? How honest are you?
Mhm.
When you got a problem with your lady, are you conflict driven or are you resolution driven? You know,
Mhm.
so other people can teach you. Situations of adversity can teach you your exploration towards what you want to do, like football, for instance, or basketball, or it could be dance, gymnastics. And then the last part, I would say, I know two more points. And this is in the book, so I'm kind of rambling on about that. But to also know yourself is your family heritage, right? So where do you come from? And I'm Congolese, a portion of that, Nigerian, all the extra stuff.
Mhm.
That's power to me because I'm like, all right, yeah, this is what keeps me prideful. This is what makes me happy. I come from this people, and this is like amazing. You know what I mean?
And
Strongest
let me ask you
people.
something. Are you talking about researching your ancestors? Or are you talking about your family that you came in contact with? Because let's say somebody for
You
me,
could do
for
both.
instance, let's say
Yeah.
somebody for me, for instance, you know what I'm saying? Your family, looking at your legacy. What if, you know what I'm saying, somebody can't do that? So you talk about being a proud Nigerian, having that type of, you talking about your immediate family, people you came in contact with? Or are you talking about studying of your history?
All of that. All of that. So when we're talking about family, we may not have the best examples. And then we got some really good examples. Pride yourself on the good examples. When you're talking about history, you can learn that, the first human beings to discover America, Africans, their kingdoms, that unmatched. Egypt, for instance, Nigeria, Mali, the richest men on earth. So like what do you learn about your people that brings you that joy and pride and knowing that like no one can strip that from you? I come from this, and this is just like you just can't, like that's just me, right? And knowing yourself also, that allows you to explore religion and rituals, customs, and you discover different parts of yourself through that too. So you explore the parts of this culture that you're discovering, your heritage, your family. Yeah. So
let me ask,
yeah.
so talking about Nigerian. So you was born in America, right?
Yes, sir.
So you have a Nigerian background. Was you born and raised in Buffalo?
Yes, sir.
So how did you grow up? Let's talk about some of your upbringing. How did you grow up? How was life growing up in Buffalo?
I've had
because that led you to this point here. And I want people to capture all that, the steps that you took. You talk about some of the things, you went through some things, and I want to talk about that too.
Yeah.
Then I want to get back to the writing.
Yes, sir. So, born and raised on the east side, moved into a more suburban place now. But
Hold up, what's the east side? Because I see you prideful about the east side.
East side it's a rough area, but it's also a spot where, people get together and really do some things progressive, right? Whether it's community doing basketball, helping the elderly, helping feed the elderly, or, it's simply just trying to help the youth become greater people. There's so much love here, right? And but getting into my upbringing, I was my father was in the Air Force for the time being when my mother was carrying me, and she was on her own for a little while, struggling, but she had my great grandmother too, and so it was a lot of that. So it was me, moms, and great grandma, and I'm so grateful for my great grandmother, because me and my mother were just talking about this before we got on the call. She was a woman of grit, and she instilled that in me. She instilled discipline. She instilled moral and ethical education in me. And my mother worked to put me in position so that I can be the best I can be. Now, when I was younger, I was struggling in school. I wouldn't have imagined myself writing books. English sucked for me. All right. Like reading, level, below level. Writing, suck at grammar. I still suck at grammar. We got editors for a reason. You know what I mean? So struggling with education, right? All the way up until high school. And, we were poor. We had lights cut off, or water cut off, heat, microwave a bowl of water, take a little bird bath. You know what I mean? It was a little cold night sometimes, but I had a mother that fought through adversity, and again, put me in position where I can strive through putting me in programs and finding male role models, excellent male role models, to make sure that I progress. Yeah.
So you found that early on. So you made it to college. So when you were struggling with school, what was it? Was it You wasn't interested because obviously you wasn't dumb. So what was you? You wasn't interested. Teachers wasn't engaging you, or you just wasn't applying yourself.
I think that I didn't necessarily have the environment suited towards teaching me.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? It was, so it was slow to process things. I become better over time through my approach to learning something, right? And approach to taking tests, and approach to, maintaining homework and balancing things. So it was that, I think. Was it the other part was overcoming it? So it really came from within, right?
Hmm.
So you have adversity, and it's like you're being molded in that, right? Now you choose how you want to be molded in adversity. So you're being shaped around, and you tell you where your hands are going to go. It's going to be tough, but either you come out a great sculpture or you're melted, right?
Hmm.
So through adversity, we almost choose what we become to an extent. So for me, it was, I didn't want this anymore. Like we're not mediocre. You know what I mean? We're gonna strive for the best.
Did
There's only
something happen?
I mean, it was acknowledging that I could do better, acknowledging that I wasn't gonna accept, failure. I didn't want to be, how you see people around and you're like, you want to be up there, right? So
Hmm.
again, like it's up here. Like, so when you're dealing with trouble, where's your mind going to? Are you gonna be like, tippity top? Or are we gonna be like, let's avoid the problem, think about it later, I don't want to deal with it, you know? Um, and sometimes it's the influence. So we go back to friends, we go back to family. And there's a whole lot that plays into it. But really it's in here to make up in your mind that the troubles that you're going through will not overcome you. You'll supersede them, and it will be no longer any trouble, you know,
Hmm.
or at least it'll be reduced. Some things are hard to deal with than others, like
Hmm.
molestation or rape or, murdering.
Did you go
And
through any of those things?
no, sir.
No.
No, sir.
All right. So you was in school. Did you play ball?
I played like football for. I wasn't the best at it. I was a bench boy. I'm not gonna lie. It was yeah, yeah.
Let's keep it
Football
real.
wasn't my thing. I tried.
Uh,
I tried basketball. We did the tryout. I didn't show up to one of the days. He was like, this ain't your thing." I wasn't
mhm.
following directions well, so that was that. In terms of physicality in like the sport area, I discovered I always wanted to do martial arts, and there's a
Mhm.
place around the corner from me, so I decided to do that. So 2019, I took a ITF Taekwondo, and I'm
Mhm.
doing great in it. I'm doing great in it, right? So it's
You
like
said
5 years.
2019.
Yeah, 2019, I started
All right.
ITF Taekwondo,
Mhm.
and it was I found that I did well in it, right? So sparring patterns, whatever, even the weapons. I'm taking a weapons course now. It's great mistakes.
Mhm.
You've seen Daredevil with Nightwing and whatnot. So
Mhm.
that's that. But yeah. So you kind of explore what you want to do. It doesn't work out. You learn about yourself. Like I got to learn, figure out listening. Like I got to work on that, right? So
Mhm.
in that way, you learn about like your downfalls, your faults, or your strengths. You know what I mean? Exploring.
Mhm.
So yeah. So ITF Taekwondo. I'm doing that now. I've been doing it, and football wasn't necessarily my thing. Basketball wasn't necessarily my thing, but through exploration, I found something that I love a lot more, and I'll go an extra mile to do it. So yeah,
Mhm. So let me ask you. So from high school, you went directly to college, or did you take a break in between?
directly to college.
So you went directly to college. Is so So you had to find yourself in high school. You started doing your work. You started applying yourself. You went to college. How was your college years? Did you
It
get in any
was
trouble? Did you did you did you get through some situations that
it
you know
was
what I'm saying?
it was very straight and narrow. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
really get in much trouble. My head was in the books,
Mm-hmm.
no life in it, right? So I was doing taekwondo. I'm involved in
Mm-hmm.
Breaking Barriers Buffalo, so we do a lot of activism work,
So
podcasting
you was a part of that in high school? I mean, you was a part of that in college, I mean.
in college.
Right. All
So
right.
I had taekwondo, I had Breaking Barriers where we were doing advocacy work, policy work, you know, weekly meetings, there was stuff going on. And
Mm-hmm.
social gatherings. And so yeah, between that, I'll pick up things like doing a podcast or whatever will come up. And some little side hustle things in the spring with the CS company here. And then, like, so I kept myself busy, not
Mm-hmm.
like I wanted to be like, okay, super productive, but it was like I wanted to do taekwondo. It's what I enjoyed. It was like it wasn't even work to me. It was just, that's fun. Time out
Mm-hmm.
of your day, an hour or two, and you do that. Um, Breaking barriers, we do a little bit of work here. It takes some time, but it's like I enjoy the people around there. I meet good men, and we get to do something meaningful. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so college was a lot of work and very time consuming. So I ain't really have it in me to get into some trouble. I've never been to a party. I don't
What?
I never been to
That's
one.
not never been to a party. It's not your thing.
I'm a very introverted guy, right? So
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, but yeah, so I'm social when I have to be. I'm social when I want to be. I could kind of turn it on and off now, through life. I've been, doing speaking engagements and stuff like that. But yeah, so 'cause I was just kind of straight and narrow with it. It was tough. It wasn't easy, and I had when you hold yourself to a high standard, like you want to be the best and get the greatest out of whatever. I would say I had some troubles in school, like I talk about creativity king. I had a I got a bad grade in biology.
Mm-hmm.
It was a D. And in biology I had to retake the class because I got a D in it. I didn't get a sufficient enough grade to, you know. So don't
Mm-hmm.
think I'm just getting A's all the way across. No, I was there was so yeah. And I remember I got my first C, I think it was like a C minus or something on my first ABEC, like animal behavior exam. This was freshman year. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I got this. You're all gung ho about being the best, right? Top of the line, what you want to do. Like, we're going to nail this. And I was like, I got that grade like that. I saw that C and I was like, it crushed me. I was like, you know what I mean? I had to eat it. I was tearing up a little bit. I went to the gym, shot the basketball around for a little bit. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, so this isn't a lesson in itself. I shot the basketball around for a little bit and I was tearing up. I was genuinely, I was crying. I was like, bro, what? But I looked at that and I was like, no, I'm gonna kill this next one. So I was like, forget it. I'm do some homework. It's gonna be on my mind for a day or two, and then I get over it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So when adversity comes, a good coping mechanism is to find what you like doing to help take your mind off of it or process it. Like think about it, really think through it. What's going on? How can you improve the next time? What can be done different? I'm like, all right, study habits, or is it what can I talk to the professor about? What went wrong? You know what I mean? So run through that in your head, act on it. Don't just leave it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when adversity comes, act on it. Find good, healthy coping mechanisms, ways to deal with it. Right. That's what I mean by coping mechanisms. And then like just do what you got to do from there.
Give me 3 coping mechanisms that you can tell the people about
All right.
that we
So
can use. We need
for
all these sound bites.
I'll tell me. I'll tell. So for me, it is taekwondo. That's my
Taekwondo.
coping mechanism. It's something
All right.
physical. It's
Mm-hmm.
something physical.
Mm-hmm.
It could be writing. So your talents, for me, it was like poetry.
Poetry.
So yes. So through my adversity, I talk about my challenges and try to make a lesson out of it. And that's kind of where the book comes in. And then so physical, your talents, can you work on that or to get over whatever you're dealing with? And I would say find something that allows you to kind of escape in a
Mm-hmm.
good way, right? So I bring up Taekwondo again because you're in that environment, you're in that space where you could be playing basketball or football, baseball, soccer, dance, gymnastics, whatever. But you're so
I'm
focused
a
on
I'm
this.
a I'm a
Yeah,
fighter myself.
yeah.
I have a
All right,
mixed
all right.
martial art
Yeah.
background. So
So you know, like you're in the zone, you're
mm-hmm.
focused, you're dialed in. The rest of the world doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
In a healthy way,
Mm-hmm.
find that
So
thing.
what
And
about the all right, go ahead.
no, that's it. That's what I got for you right there.
All right. So let's get back to the youth right now. Let's say they going home. You know what I'm saying? They got to be in school. And they going home to unsupportive backgrounds. They got a family that doesn't care. They got pure chaos. What do
Okay.
you, because you deal with breaking barriers, and I want to get to breaking barriers because I really don't know much about it, but I see y'all in contact with the community and y'all doing some things. But what do you tell a kid that goes back to that type of chaos every day? You know what I'm saying? He goes back to the drug addict parents. He goes back
Yeah.
to the alcoholic mother or father, or he goes back to the abuse. What do you talk to a kid about that?
It's tough. I'm gonna give you an answer, but it's tough. It's
Mm-hmm.
tough. And I've come across people like that, and even my own environment growing up, sometimes it was like, you know, it ain't easy. Some aspects of abuse. So I think what would help a kid with advice, depending on their age or what have you, um, it depends on their family, friends, influences. It depends on where you can go. So I think the family, friends, and influences in your environment, that's like, so you got this relative who's, you know, they don't even have to be able to do it themselves, but they got their mind straight and they can speak love into you. You know what I mean? When I would see my great uncle, you gonna be the president, you gonna be something great. Like he always spoke greatness into me every time I saw him. He was like, you know what I mean? Like you just that's Unc right there. I love Unc. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Find that person. Find that person. And then get away from that space.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes a lot of the reasons why people go to dormitories, like go to dorms in college, is because they want to get away from the heck, all the kids, all the parent stuff. You know, mom's chopping down my ear about, you know, bills or whatever, and like I can't handle that, and then I will deal with college, and you know, so find a different space. Um, I'm not necessarily saying go to dormitories, but find that secluded area or safe space of friends, that safe space of positive friends. I want to add safe space of family, you know, and kind of find your way to get some help. You know what I mean? Find that counselor, that social worker that'll, you know, help you overcome those troubles, talk you through it, speak life into you, you
Big
know,
positivity into you. Yeah, I was gonna
direct you
say
in the
that.
resources, because it's here, like it's here, it's all here, and that's the thing, because it's, you know, you got to deal with that, and then it just doesn't leave when you leave the house. It, you know what I'm saying? And then the mothers
Yeah,
sometimes,
I
or
know
the
exactly what
fathers,
you're saying.
yeah, the mothers and fathers sometimes they don't speak. They speak the opposite of the positive, the love. You know what I mean? And some kids, their self-esteem is crushed. They can't do school because they don't believe it in themselves to really follow through or accomplish something. So then their goals are just down here, even if they're up here, they don't see their way to getting to them, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
think it's in their reach. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So get around those people that'll speak love into you, positivity. Get around those people that'll bring the positive coping mechanisms, bring the positive environment for you, even if it's temporarily, and then instill in yourself morals, ethics, philosophy, that positive stuff that'll help you kind of think about life differently in a way that will allow you to, even while you're in the environment, kind of maintain your sanity and maintain your goodness. Like, what are you
Mm-hmm.
filling your head with? So that's what's important also. That's my
When you
opinion.
see a kid like this, how do you connect with them?
It is it depends on the kid. It
Mm-hmm.
depends on the kid. So you gotta kind
Is
of
this
speak
is
their
it
language.
sometimes rough?
Yeah. Yeah, because again, it's like some people, I wouldn't say so far gone, but some people are like, they're pretty deep in the I can't do it space. It's
They can't
over.
see a way
Like,
out.
yeah, you know what I mean? But what you can do, speak that love, speak that positivity, show them what different looks like, whether that be environment, types of people that they're around. Go to a good area during the summer, look for some Lamborghinis or something. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like they gotta be able to see, like all they see is bad, negative,
Chaos,
crushing, you know what I
destruction.
mean?
Yeah.
So they gotta be able to visually see, okay, black man, black woman doing amazing things. Have them talk to them, you know.
Right.
And that's the beauty of having like programs that'll allow positive male role models. So those role models are very important. And that's what helped me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
What?
yeah.
Now go ahead, man. I'm just gonna
Um
expound on it.
now go ahead.
So, what does breaking barriers? Let's talk about breaking barriers. What do you guys do fundamentally?
So we do work around advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
Um that was the NBC spotlight stuff I showed you about, one aspect of it, some news articles and whatnot. Um we do policy work, so we talk to councilmen at times. We talk to we kind of think about proposals we can put towards, our politicians. We constantly think about ways how we can improve the community and what we can do on our part. And then on the fun side, I mean, well, okay, depending on what you find fun, right? So on the fun side, we have retreats every summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the boys and men, like we have a doctor that comes, lawyers, professors. Again, the role models, the visual of great men.
That's important. Visuals are
Yeah.
important.
And then so we have them around doing workshops with us on, like, say, poetry or exercise, healthy eating, manhood, masculinity. You know, um, we talk about dealing with girls too. That's important. I feel like that, especially
That's
because
very important.
especially nowadays, I feel like it's very mainstream. I don't want, okay, we don't want to give too much attention to that at the moment, but dealing with young ladies, dealing with ourselves as men, overcoming, boys don't cry, overcoming, you know, our internal troubles, like holding that in, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so we also bounce our ideas back and forth on progressing, and everybody shares their opinions. It's age 12 to 24. So
Mm-hmm.
you get the old heads, they put their input. You get the young ones, they're like, I got this and I can think about this, and you got the in between, and then slightly older like me, so you get a variety of backgrounds, you get a variety of like disciplines and professions, and that I think that's what makes it so great, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Do you
yeah.
guys got? Are you guys government funded?
from my knowledge, we get funding and grants from other organizations. I don't believe we get government funding.
Mhm.
It's a lot of other organizations around the city or the state.
Are
Well,
you
not
guys
necessarily the state, but around the state.
do you guys think that, do you guys deal with a lack of resources? Could you feel like you should have more to deal with the problems that you got to tackle?
Yeah. So you are you aware of like 514 shooting that happened at Tops here in Buffalo? So
Talk about it.
So we East Side, right? Grocery stores unavailable, very few, and that's a problem. So you got a bunch of you know African Americans going to this one spot for groceries, and it's kind of the only place because we have a food desert, meaning we have like very few grocery stores and a bunch of corner stores that we go to that don't
Mm.
sell the best food, the most healthy food. And if you want to get something outside of that, you got to go 7 miles, you know, down the road to get to like a Whole Food if you want, or a Walmart, or a different grocery store like Tops, or I don't know.
In bad conditions.
Yeah. So the problem is food deserts, right? So that's the underserving part of it. And so this guy, he comes looking to do some damage at a place where, because of the food desert, it's a heavy populate concentration of African Americans going to this grocery store. And he does what he does. And I'm glad there's been more attention put towards the concerns around underserved areas. But a lot more money has to go funding and go put into like different aspects of these underserved areas to make sure that people get what they need for adequate diet,
Mhm.
education that'll help them advance, and not necessarily like the spiel about taxes, learning finances, um, you know, and like even I was watching a video the other day, and it was like we should have a course on like relationships, like dealing with maintaining healthy, functional relationships that'll so we you know what I mean. So it's just putting that money in so that people can better assist themselves to thrive, to throw down the
Mhm.
obesity rates and you know other concerns and what have you.
So, so you talked about healthy diet. So how are you getting into that? How are you think that you can improve that? The health, the diet in the Black community, getting foods. How do you
It,
think that you can? Let's say you had all the resources. What do you think you should do?
it's up here. It's up here. So it's the discipline and the attitude, the persistence to know what you have to do. I mean, we know, right? Like let's be real, but like it's whether you choose this healthy option over the cheeseburger or the steak sub. I love steak subs. I crush one,
Mhm.
right? But you know what I mean. You might have to eat something else because you'll gain a few pounds, or your cholesterol is high, blood pressure,
Mhm.
and all that stuff. So it's the discipline, and then making sure that you stay on track, keeping a schedule. Um, if you got to make a grid for yourself to tell yourself, I'm eating this, that, the third, stay away from this, stay away from that, stay away from the third. Um, so whatever regimen, routine, schedule, diet you create for yourself, maintain that, keep the discipline. It's up here. It's up here. You know what I mean?
Mhm. So why should they do that though? Wow, tell me why. Like say somebody why. I mean, I know why, but why should they do those things? Why should they look to eating healthy? You know
Yeah.
what I'm
So
saying? How is the bad
yeah,
food destroying the Black community?
I mean the food that is thrown in our faces, and sometimes we often choose it. Diabetes. You know what I'm saying? You can't play ball like you used to. You're exhausted, right? I mean, there's age too, right? Don't get me wrong, like, so, but there's the food aspect of it. You're not sleeping the same. You're not, you're not taking care of yourself. You got blood pressure concerns, cholesterol concerns, weight concerns, and it doesn't set a good example for the ones coming up, right? For the young people looking at you, observing what you eat, observing what you buy, observing what you brag about, right?
Mhm.
So that's also the other important thing. We got to set a tone for making sure that our descendants are just constantly elevating, you know,
Mhm.
and we each individually play a part in our community, and that's why activism so when you neglect the way you're perceived by others, when you neglect the way that you can um, promote some kind of change, then you kind of neglect everybody else around you, and then the people that come after you, you do no service, you know.
Mhm.
So it's important that you set a good example, right?
Mhm.
And I think that's probably the biggest
Mhm.
reason.
And what made you passionate about this?
Um, when you, I think when you see stuff like this, and then it really gets to you, like for me, it was you would see family members struggling with some health conditions, right? And
Mhm.
they're like, something's got to shake because I don't want to deal with it, and it's not good for cuz, it's not good for you know nieces or nephew, whatever. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be affected by it because they see it, they internalize it, and they will act according to what they were taught, intentionally or unintentionally.
Mhm.
So, um, yeah, so that's kind of, but outside of that, you see people struggling genuinely. You get the statistics about obesity, health struggles, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, what you gotta. I'm so passionate about helping people and like changing minds to progress because it's like it's so simple. It may not necessarily be easy, but it's it's something that you kind of just build within yourself depending on how you were taught to think about the value of your family or community or friends, right? Like, what do you value?
Mhm.
In a nutshell, I think that's my answer to that. Like, what do you value? You know?
Mhm. I would say, it's important to change the health because, like you said, cholesterol, diabetes is a killer in the Black community. It causes cardiovascular disease and diabetes,
Yeah,
which can mess up your organs, can mess up your it's the leading cause of stroke, and sexually, it can mess you up sexually for all the men out there. So eating bad foods can do a lot, and a lot of times Black men don't go to the doctor. So a lot of times we won't learn these things until it's too late or
yeah,
it's already happening, and then we gotta balance it out and play the game of fighting back. When if you get into it young, what you are doing, you're teaching the youth about preparing themselves for life and preparing their bodies for life
yeah,
and putting the great things in their body will prepare them for that and have a better sense of health and help them live longer. So that's something that's important to me. That's something that I felt with, and I didn't know was that important until I reached this age now. That's why I asked. Um, so health is a big deal, and getting kids to get into that. I don't know how. What I'm saying, especially when it's not practiced on the home front. We got a lot of,
yeah,
as a Black community, we have a lot of bad eating habits, and we're taught a lot of bad eating habits. And people get stubborn about their bad eating habits. They don't want to fuck that. I eat
yeah,
what I eat. This is what I like. And no matter what happens, no matter the damage it may the damage it may do. So it's important that you get these kids young and tell them the right things to eat, the right things to put in their body, because it can have long-lasting detrimental effects to their body and to their mental health overall. So heart conditions is a big deal. So we all, as Black people, we're always at a risk of stroke, diabetes, heart condition, everything. It's something in our DNA that does that. I don't have all the facts, but I just know how important it is. I seen something yesterday. Somebody else was talking about it. So I know how important it is to eat healthier. And are you said you eat steak still? Are you a vegan? Are you a vegetarian?
I took an animal ethics class and how animals are treated, and I'm not gonna put you to sleep, but I think about it, but I'm like, is what you like. It's what
Mhm.
how do you kind of like make that mental shift to transition and stay away from it? No, am I eating steak subs like every week? No, but occasionally I'm like, oh, I want a little
It's a
sub
guilty
here and there.
pleasure.
You know what I'm saying? Like candy, you might like candy, you might like a drink or whatever, but
Mhm.
I like to
You're
say,
not abusing.
no, not abusing, but so you at a very low level that'll help you kind of get your fix or whatever, and then go back on track and stay. It's like you're running a mile, but you take a little walk to kind of like got to get that air back in you, re-energize a little bit, and then you go back to running. So
Mhm.
that steak sub is probably a little walk. That could be a way you approach changing your diet to getting healthy.
Mhm.
Don't relapse. Don't go back. That's the discipline or that's the grit part. Right?
Mhm.
And
And we all,
so
and
back,
most of us do
yeah,
relapse.
yeah, and back to what you were saying about the kids and the parents, and so their influence is heavily the home. Your family is your first teacher. So with eating better, mom, dad, guardian, whoever that is, like, hey, let's talk about it, because you know what I mean. You're the caregiver. You're the one feeding, and even if they have the option to feed themselves at some point, or if they do now, be the example to like show them, you know, don't eat like this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Be
Mhm.
that person.
Shout out to the real Dorian right here, author, activist. Let's talk about police brutality. Police
Sure, for sure.
brutality is current events right now. You see what happened to Tyrod Nichols. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Tyree Nichols, my bad.
You look at the color of people who did it, and you little like you're. Um, my condolences to him and his family members. It. I don't have a solid answer. I mean, it's like it. It appears that regardless of who you put in presidency, you know what I mean. And then like what
Let me
measures
ask
are
you
we
this. Do you
taking?
have an answer?
I I would like to propose one.
Mhm.
So
And if I would so propose one right here, let me hear it. If you
I
got it.
think that like for reducing police brutality, we gotta touch on what's getting people to the police in the first place. Right? What's bringing the police individual to like combine? Like what does that read? Like you know what I mean? So it's a plethora of things, but attacking the cause, understanding where it comes from, and I feel like that can my short answer of that can reduce police brutality. Why are why are police and certain people meeting so much? You know.
Mhm.
So let's tackle that. Let's get to why that is. Pull up the statistics, whatever you got, and then let's kind of formulate ideas of how to like. All right, well, if he's robbing for shoes that he doesn't necessarily need to steal, you know what I mean? Is it the materialism, right?
Mhm.
let's change the definition of, you know, what is wealthy, or, you know, putting you at a different status. If you take it from the grocery store and feed your kids, all right, let's kind of find some food program. Let's teach you some different money management skills. There are alternative ways to, you know, approach, you know, the connection to police brutality. I mean, there are alternative ways to approach handling offenses. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's not always go to jail. It's not always like gang up on this person. You know what I mean? So how can we resolve an issue in a healthy way, an approach that'll help restore them and lead to them to better outcomes later on down the line?
You think that ever happened? Because from my understanding is this, you know what I mean, my police are trained a certain way. So when we talk about defund the police, I think that it's not about defund. I think that they definitely have to retrain and understand what people go into being a police for. Some people are going into police force with cruel intentions, like you're there to protect and serve. Making an arrest shouldn't be life and death. I don't care what that person did. If the laws are there to protect people, so no matter what the case may be, you shouldn't be going into something trying to murder somebody. You know what I'm saying? They're using any excuse to kill our people. And I think that they're too slow to do something about it. And these cops right here, like they got fired, 5 of them was charged. But then again, the person that was in charge of them, which I heard has a funky background, she leads crusades like this. So from the top down, you have to do something about it. You can't just fire the officers because they had to be empowered to do some foul shit like that. Yeah. And they get away with it 9 times out of 10. If that man didn't die or come even close to dying, if he didn't die or come close to dying, that shit is every day in our neighborhoods. Cops is whooping on black men every day for minor offenses. And the thing is, you're supposed to be there to arrest and bring in. You shouldn't be trying to kill somebody just to do your job. This is not personal. This is not something somebody you should have a vendetta against or beef with. You know what I'm saying? You should be able to arrest somebody in the right manner. And if it's that serious, a traffic stop, if you can't bring them in the right manner, you shouldn't be doing it. You shouldn't be doing it at all. You shouldn't be chasing people down, running people off the road, putting kids at jeopardy. You know what I'm saying? Arrest shouldn't be the highest motive of everything. People's lives need to come into that point, because a lot of times these crimes are not life and death. We're not getting a death penalty for a lot of these crimes. So you shouldn't be risking your life to bring somebody to arrest somebody. Meanwhile, you done killed up everything. You done hurt kids in the back seat because somebody was being stupid. You are there to protect and serve. Help us. You know what I'm saying? Bring that man to justice. Arrest him. But don't kill him. Don't try to hurt him to do that. And I think that type of philosophy has to be changed. In order to do that, it has to start from the top. It has to start from the president. It has to be a whole restructure of how we do things around here. And right now, I don't think it's ever going to stop. It's too much going on where everything is okay. Cops get a blind eye to everything. And I think that's really, really foul. I've seen some wild shit in my life, and I've been on the receiving end of some wild shit in my life. Growing up in the streets, selling drugs, doing what I got to do. And no matter what I was doing, my life shouldn't be at risk just because you want to arrest me. Arrest me, bring me to justice. Don't try to kill me, because that person could be a different person 3 years from now. You're supposed to be able to change lives. So are you down with prison reform?
Okay, so back to what you were talking about with what did you say? Training, police training, even criminal justice education. So restorative practices. I think that's a very heavy feature that we, again, going back to, so an example I learned in when I was getting certified for healing circles, we talked about, let's say you have a car, I take your car and I'm like, catch me down the street sleeping in it. And first thought is like, okay, take him to jail, pay X amount of dollars, etc. Right. So that's just straight punishment. That's just all the way direct punishment. Now let's look at the background of why I stole the car. I don't have a home. It's cold outside, and I need to get somewhere. I don't necessarily know better. I mean, well, I know better, but I don't know a different way to get to where I want to go, where I need to be in life. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
You're trying to survive.
how can we reconcile the offender and the receiver, right? How can we reconcile that? And then what can we do to make sure that this person has what they need to get to where they don't do that anymore? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
How do we do
not
that?
not directly to punishment, but so restorative justice. And that
Mm-hmm.
is, kind of reconciliation between burglar and homeowner. Like let's kind of face-to-face dialogue. Let's get to where we can kind of come to an agreement on something to pay a debt owed and transform the offender so that this doesn't happen again, right? So let's look
Mm-hmm.
at why things happen. Let's look at the causes and attack that again. So restorative justice, restorative practices, I feel like that should be implemented heavily into the police force, into education. I think it should be a part of the curriculum, So we even deal with like it's one of the things in breaking barriers we deal with is suspensions. Wild for us, right? Our children. So like what instead of sending them off to, be in detention or sending him home for like a week because he did whatever, he's not learning. Mom and dad is working, or mom might just she might not be available to take care of him, whatever, grandma, auntie, whoever's gonna come over to watch him, or he's just home by himself, and then he might be running the streets doing whatever. Right. So what how can we reconcile and make sure that this person kind of gets what they need emotionally? Let's kind of figure that out. Let's get to the point where, this person is maybe he might need a different class environment. He might need a different this, that, or the third. It's not directly to punishment when something happens, right? I think that's
Right.
the big point I'm trying to get to, if I'm being
Mm-hmm.
clear. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that's what I got for that.
What do you think about the influence of hip hop culture? We got to get all these sound bites. So what do you think about the hip hop culture and how they influence our youth and some of the things they can do differently?
It's I understand why they go to the approach they do. It's because people want to hear that, right? They got to sell.
Mm-hmm.
They got to sell. So I think it's up to the people to decide on what they listen to. How is it going to change? You got to change what they want to sell. You only do that by consuming something different. You follow? So
Mm-hmm.
it's like you want to make sure that whatever you're listening to, these streaming numbers are going over here versus drug dealing, killing, etc. Right? And something
Mm-hmm.
more positive. Like, what are you listening to? And then again, as a role model, finding a role model, how do they what do they listen to? Right. So
Mm-hmm.
what is their influence, their thoughts on life, your thoughts on life to your child, their thoughts upon your child? Like how are they influencing them and that music they will like that will shape what they listen to, what they like, what resonates with them. That's why we listen to what we listen to. It's like, oh, this is deep, or I just like the beat because of this. But you listen to the lyrics and then it's like you're subconsciously absorbing that in. You sing every single word to a song and you telling me you only listen to it for the beats. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
like, kind of we transform our direction for what we want to hear. We set a role model, an example, you said a role model, or we be an example ourselves as to what we listen to and impress upon the youth. And so I think that's how we can change the direction of the music that's not so productive to our progress. And
Mm,
the influence on the kids, I mean, it's like, it has an influence. Music has an influence. It influences how you feel, what you think.
you think we should limit the
Especially
exposure to kids?
change the exposure, change what they
Mm,
listen to. So like the game, right? The rapper.
mm,
One of the Navy SEALs that took out Osama bin Laden was listening to one of his songs. Okay, like
mm,
so this man's going in there to kill somebody.
mm,
You know what I mean? So it's like uh, music influences,
mm,
um, in short. So we be a role model and then fill their minds with something different, teach them that, this isn't necessarily the way to go when you're struggling. You know what I mean? Because somebody talked about it like over and over in a song. Um, the language that, for again, another influence is the language, like the vocabulary. They cursing out a lot at school. Like, what you listening to? What do they think is right or wrong because of what they've heard repetitively that's stuck in their mind so much to where they can verbatim repeat every single line.
mm.
So yeah, I hope I'm not going off on a tangent like everywhere,
Man,
but
listen,
I'm hoping I'm
go
giving you.
off where you gotta go off to. We gonna get it all. All right. So let's talk about. You said you do poetry, which is a form of, you know what I'm saying. Let me let
Yes,
me
sir.
let me hear something. Let me hear something you got because you got some things
Oh
where we got to get
man,
back to these books before we get out of here.
oh man, oh man.
So
All right,
can you give me a nice can you give me a little something?
I don't memorize nothing, so I'm gonna get to you though. Hold on, I'm gonna find one. I would say okay. Opportunities is what it's called. No, I ain't rehearsed these or nothing. I take everything that comes my way. Anything that stands in my way will have something good to pay. The devil got off my shoulder a while ago, or maybe just a part of me. A creative, analytical mind is what opportunities bring. Success is constantly on my mind. I see a great life in my visions. It's a purposeful, methodical process. I do not feel that I am taking all the opportunities I could have, like taking the opportunities to visit more. Maybe some more phone calls would bring us a little closer. Maybe talking more before passing would have helped me handle grief and closure. When we were on the phone, we all we discussed in life, was my life exposure. The Rugrats needed a model, but I'm not around. I was told they are not my responsibility. You have a lot of things going on. Focus on yourself. In a sense, I feel like I let them down. It is hard to talk to them. That is my disconnect. Not a sense of my antennas could pick it up. Too busy to keep my sorry, it's a little deep for me. Too busy to keep all my promises. People over progress was my missed opportunity. Um, so that poem, it was my mind set on constant, achievement and not necessarily put towards family. So my great grandmother had passed, and I didn't take the opportunity to reach out to her more.
Mm,
And some of my cousins they be tripping sometimes, and I'm like, as a potential role model, I didn't take the time to kind of connect with them more,
mhm.
understand
I
them,
know
and
what you
reach
mean.
out and do what I got to do. And that was my missed opportunity to
Mm.
you know value family more over. I could reread it again. I don't know, that was a little janky, but but yeah,
Listen, man,
that poem.
if you into it more, get into it more. Um, this is all for you. So I understand all that, man. I said, you know, you was too busy to reach back for the people that you care about. So, you know, you talk about your great grandmother. What's the number one thing she taught you that you value today?
And my whole framework was her foundation was my mental framework today. Is my mental framework today. I would say I wouldn't say there's anything she said in particular, or it was just she taught me discipline, right? Being good. She taught me being good. So that lives
Uh,
on me today, and I ran with it, and I gave her praise in all my books.
mm, are you married?
No, sir.
You gotta let the people know. All right, he's not married. So, if you could change one thing in the world today, what would you change?
Um, I would change the love we have for ourselves, right?
Mm. All right. So right now,
African Americans, whatever you want to call yourself, you know, how we see ourselves, how much we value ourselves. Do we prioritize what we are born with over what the world imposes on us to say that we are less than, and so on? You know,
mm, um, how do you see yourself today?
how do I see myself?
Yeah, we
I've
coming to
got
the
some
end
things to
zone.
work on. I've got some
Mm,
things to work on, but I'm proud of what I've done. I would say I'm happy, but I'm also concerned, right? You know,
mhm.
and yeah, that's how I see myself.
Um, 2023. What's three things you got to accomplish this year?
This year, I want to get book number 4 out. I got an idea. Um, I want to touch on a lot more media interviews like this. So I appreciate you for accepting me and making the time out to do this for me. I praise you for that. And
We thank you.
and thank you. So so there's that. Um, I plan on attending graduate school, so I took a year off. Kind of, it was a big debate on whether I wanted to do or not. Money, right? So
Mm,
so next fall I'm gonna be starting graduate school, and I already gave you 3 things, but number 4 is probably looking at some more entrepreneurial ventures, to assets and working on helping other people in the best way I know how. So yeah.
mm. So run down where people meet you at. Tell us about the 3 books. Tell us about what you're doing, how to reach you, and give us the most important advice right here on Highly Dysfunctional.
Yes, sir. DSWJR.com is where you find my website. I'm interested in some speaking engagements, so that's the other goal I have, to get more of those in for the youth or parents, whoever, centered on self-development, progress, growth. You can find my books, Thoughts of Creativity King,
Thoughts of Creativity King.
Amazon. You just search the name Thoughts of Creativity King, 114 Realities, Wisdom, 45 Advice. You can even search my name as well, and stuff will pop up. And so another thing is author consulting. So what I do is I give informative sessions, everything you need to know, resources, and so you can do it yourself, right? And then you become self-sufficient like I am in producing and publishing your own books. And you create your own assets that way. And I'm certified in healing circles. So I also teach, not necessarily teach. So when we talk about restorative practices, when we talk about maybe a trauma response or communication, relationship building, or kind of getting something off your chest, I can do that. So That's on my website, dswjr.com. My social media, dswjr.18. You might see 22 on Instagram as well. That's me. It was just another account I had made on accident. And then, so that'll be on TikTok, Twitter, IG, Snapchat. Facebook is my name, Dorian Scott Withrow Jr. And yeah, so Wisdom 45 Advice. Any book bought online goes to a mentoring program in North Carolina. And again, me and like 16 other youth. My name's up there. But yeah, so only $15 goes to a mentoring program supporting Black young men there, young ladies, and it gets the word out about the youth's perspective on social justice, and yeah, pretty much. So advice I have for you, what I carry with me and what has led me to, not necessarily achieve, but it was a starting point, is to do what you think you should do. If it's in your mind and you want to do it, you think it's pressing, like, I got to do this thing, it's always there nagging at me, like, do that very thing. Like, take that step, take that leap forward. Don't get caught up in planning too much. Plan, but don't be paralyzed by the intensity of your anticipation of what's to come, because then you'll kind of you won't do it, right? So just like you said, just do it. Don't plan too much, not too much. And like, do what you think you should do. Research, and then kind of make some moves, make connections, network, meet people. Oh yeah, my email, 114realities@gmail.com. You can reach me on social media too, 114realities@gmail.com. And yeah, pretty much.
One more thing. I need you to say shout out to the real Highly Dysfunctional.
Shout out to the real Highly Dysfunctional. I appreciate you for having me, man.
Thank you for coming on, Dorian. Author, activist, East Sider, straight out of Buffalo. Shout out to the real. Shout out to the fake. Shout out to that nosy chick. You better stay in her place. Get in line, punk. Thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you.
We got a lot to work with. We got to break this